The announcement did not arrive with ceremony. It came with the cold finality of a palace statement. King Charles had signed a decree permanently removing Queen Camilla from the royal position she had spent years defending. There was no temporary suspension, no private compromise, and no graceful retreat behind closed doors. The decision was written, signed, and sealed. When Queen Camilla finally understood what those few lines meant, the room around her seemed to fall completely silent. Before we go deeper into what this could mean for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss a single update. King Charles remained alone after signing the document, staring at the page as though the ink itself carried a weight he could not put down. In this dramatized account, the royal decree, a formal written order issued under the monarch's authority, did far more than alter a schedule. It stripped Queen Camilla of her remaining official authority, ceremonial standing, household privileges, and any future institutional role. It also closed forever the quiet path back that palace compromises had once left open. Queen Camilla did not move when the senior aide placed the document before her. She read the first page once, then again, her fingers tightening slightly along the edge before she pushed it away. Seconds later, she pulled it back toward herself. The queen consort had survived public hostility, years of scrutiny, and endless questions about her place beside the king. But this was different. This came from him. King Charles lowered the pen slowly after signing and said nothing. The monarch understood that the decree was not simply an administrative act. It was a personal rupture written in official language. One clause made the separation permanent, preventing any informal household decision from restoring Queen Camilla's position in the future. Another transferred several responsibilities immediately, revealing that preparations had begun long before she had been formally informed. At last, Queen Camilla looked up and asked the aide a single question. Could it ever be reversed? The answer was quiet and devastating. No. Her expression changed, not with anger at first, but with the stunned stillness of someone realizing that an argument she believed could continue had already been ended without her involvement. The closed door now carried a different meaning. For years, King Charles had protected her position, defended her presence, and absorbed political and personal criticism to keep her by his side. Yet he had now signed the order that removed her from the royal structure completely. The decree explained what had happened. It did not explain why he had been willing to do it. And behind that signature stood three people whose personal histories had transformed a royal decision into something far more painful. King Charles, Queen Camilla, and the heir who could no longer remain silent. Queen Camilla finally looked up and asked the aide one question. Could it ever be reversed? The answer was quiet and devastating. No. Her expression changed, not with anger at first, but with the stunned stillness of someone realizing that an argument she believed could continue had already been ended without her involvement. The closed door now carried a different meaning. For years, King Charles had protected her position, defended her presence, and absorbed political and personal criticism to keep her by his side. Yet he had now signed the order that removed her from the royal structure completely. The decree explained what had happened. It did not explain why he had been willing to do it. And behind that signature stood three people whose personal histories had transformed a royal decision into something far more painful. King Charles, Queen Camilla, and the heir who could no longer remain silent. Every royal crisis has a moment that seems insignificant until history looks back on it. In this story, that moment came during a closed ceremonial rehearsal at Windsor. The disagreement lasted only minutes, yet those present understood that something fundamental had changed. Queen Camilla challenged an altered order of precedence. Prince William refused to reverse it. King Charles watched without intervening. When the rehearsal ended, no one left believing the conflict could still be contained. Queen Camilla felt the ground shifting beneath her. Ceremonial responsibilities were being reassigned. Household influence was narrowing, and authority was gradually moving toward Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, as the monarchy prepared for its next generation. The order of precedence, the formal ranking that determines who stands, enters, or acts before others during official occasions, had become more than protocol to her. It felt like a map of who mattered and who was being pushed aside. When Queen Camilla saw Catherine placed ahead of her for a ceremonial responsibility, she challenged the change openly. Her voice remained controlled, but the humiliation beneath it was impossible to miss. Prince William responded with restraint. He explained that the arrangement reflected the future structure of the crown, the planned distribution of duties and authority as the next generation moved forward. She did not hear procedure. She heard a warning. King Charles remained still until Queen Camilla turned directly toward him. She asked him to overrule his son and restore the previous order. The king hesitated before replying. "The order will remain." Nothing exploded. No one raised their voice. Yet that single sentence became the point of no return, because Queen Camilla understood that the decision had not simply happened around him. He had accepted it. After the rehearsal, she confronted King Charles and asked whether he had approved the change beforehand. He paused before answering. That pause told her everything. He had known. Worse, he had chosen not to warn her. She stared at him in disbelief and asked why he had allowed her to discover it in front of everyone. He offered no easy answer. Later, Prince William remained behind with his father and spoke with unusual bluntness. He told King Charles that avoiding confrontation was no longer protecting the family. It was creating a danger for the institution they were trying to preserve. The future king did not demand punishment. He demanded clarity. Queen Camilla reached the doorway and stopped. For a moment, she appeared to expect King Charles to call her back. He did not. The door closed behind her while father and son remained inside, and the silence that followed felt heavier than the argument itself. The rehearsal had exposed the fracture, but the next meeting would transform that fracture into an ultimatum that neither husband nor wife could take back. The confrontation took place without cameras, advisors, or ceremonial language to soften the blow. Queen Camilla entered expecting an explanation. King Charles knew she wanted reassurance. Instead, the conversation stripped away years of carefully managed compromise. For the first time, their disagreement was no longer about schedules, precedents, or palace politics. It became deeply personal. She wanted to know whether her husband still stood beside her. He needed her to understand that the king could no longer respond only as a husband. King Charles had invited her into a private sitting room, because the Windsor rupture could no longer be ignored. The monarchy was entering a period of transition. A planned shift in responsibility as Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, assumed greater operational authority and public prominence. That mattered because every new responsibility given to the next generation reduced the space Queen Camilla had once assumed was secure. The king understood that this was no longer simply about ceremony. It was about who would shape the institution after him. Queen Camilla accused him of allowing Prince William to reshape their marriage through royal policy. She told King Charles that every concession seemed to move power away from her while strengthening his son. The queen consort heard strategy where he insisted there was necessity, and the pain deepened when she realized he was no longer speaking only as her husband. King Charles answered that the crisis had moved beyond Prince William. Personal loyalty, he said, could no longer override institutional stability. Then Queen Camilla asked the question he had feared most. "Are you choosing the crown over me?" The king did not answer immediately. His silence landed harder than anger. Queen Camilla rose so quickly that her hand struck the edge of a small table. She waited for King Charles to take back what came next. He did not. Instead, the monarch revealed that legal and constitutional advisors had already been asked to prepare options that could limit her future royal position. Those advisors, specialists responsible for guiding the sovereign on lawful and institutional matters, signaled that the dispute had already moved far beyond a private marital disagreement. King Charles watched her leave without following. After the door closed, he pressed his fingers against his forehead and remained seated, shaken by what he had set in motion. Queen Camilla had wanted reassurance. Instead, she received confirmation that the palace was preparing for a future in which her authority could be permanently reduced. No apology followed her into the corridor. No promise softened the damage. For King Charles, the next decision would require something colder than emotion: authority, procedure, and permanence. The marriage had reached its breaking point. Now the machinery of the monarchy would determine whether that private rupture could be transformed into an irreversible royal act. The loudest moment of the crisis had ended. What followed was quieter, and far more dangerous. Behind closed doors, King Charles was presented with consequences rather than emotions. Every option carried a cost. Leave Queen Camilla's position untouched, and the internal conflict would continue. Reduce her duties gradually, and uncertainty could poison the palace for years. Or choose the most severe path. A single written decision capable of ending the argument permanently. King Charles listened as a small circle of advisors laid out the possible courses of action before him. In this dramatized account, ceremonial duties referred to the official public roles performed on behalf of the crown, while household privileges included access, staff support, and influence within the royal structure. Patronage responsibilities involved formal relationships with charities and organizations. Taken together, these were not minor details. They formed the framework through which Queen Camilla maintained a visible role in royal life. Prince William refused to turn the meeting into a demand for punishment. Instead, he told his father that the true danger was uncertainty, because every temporary compromise created another opportunity for the same conflict to return. The prince wanted clarity strong enough to withstand pressure, emotion, and time. Yet he also saw what the discussion was doing to King Charles. The king reacted sharply when one advisor described Queen Camilla's position as a structural problem. He stopped the advisor immediately. "She is not a problem," he said. "She is my wife." The correction changed the atmosphere in the room because everyone understood the contradiction he was carrying. The monarch was being asked to evaluate institutional risk, while the husband was being asked to dismantle the role of the woman he had defended for years. Prince William softened his tone after that. He reminded his father that protecting the crown did not require pretending the decision would be painless. The future king understood that authority could settle a constitutional question, but it could not erase grief within a family. Then the advisors presented the option nobody expected King Charles to accept easily. Instead of gradually reducing duties, they proposed a permanent decree designed to remove Queen Camilla's authority entirely. The draft also included safeguards preventing any informal restoration of influence in the future. In other words, private access would no longer be able to quietly rebuild what the written order removed. King Charles reached the final paragraph and stopped reading. He removed his glasses, placed them beside the document, and asked everyone except Prince William to leave the room. When the door closed, the king looked at his son and asked quietly, "If I do this, does it end here?" Prince William did not pretend there was an easy answer. He replied that it would end the institutional uncertainty, but he could not promise what it would do to the family. In that moment, King Charles finally understood the full cost of the decision before him. The advisors had built the framework. Prince William had explained the stakes. Now King Charles was left alone with the one decision that no one else could make for him. There was no dramatic speech when he finally signed. That was what made the moment feel so severe. He read the decree one final time, paused over the signature line, and asked whether every consequence had been explained to Queen Camilla. When he was told that she understood the proposal but did not believe he would approve it, something in his expression changed. Seconds later, the pen touched the page. Decades of loyalty, controversy, rehabilitation, and ambition collided in a single handwritten signature. King Charles did not move immediately afterward. In this dramatized account, the decree was a formal royal order designed to take effect at once. Palace staff had already prepared simultaneous administrative changes, so that there would be no gap between decision and consequence. That mattered because uncertainty had fueled the crisis from the beginning. The king wanted no private loopholes, no temporary arrangements, and no opportunity for competing instructions to reopen the conflict. Regret came quickly. Reversal did not. King Charles stared at the document and understood the difference between pain and doubt. A monarch could hate the cost of a decision while still believing it was necessary. That distinction offered little comfort when he learned that Queen Camilla had been informed the signature was final. She listened without interruption. Then she asked the aide to leave. Once the door closed, the queen consort remained alone with a reality she had refused to believe would arrive. One immediate consequence removed her from future strategic household briefings, private planning meetings where senior royals and palace staff prepared for the monarchy's next phase. Her exclusion meant that the future would now be designed without her voice. Queen Camilla crossed the room, removed a ring from one hand, and slowly turned it between her fingers. For a moment, she seemed ready to set it down. Instead, she slipped it back into place and said nothing. The gesture reflected the contradiction she could not escape. Her marriage remained. The royal authority surrounding it did not. Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, received her own briefing with visible discomfort. Several ceremonial responsibilities would pass to her sooner than expected. Further evidence that the palace had prepared for a post-Camilla structure long before the ink had dried. She did not celebrate. Her first question was whether Queen Camilla had been informed personally. The future queen understood that advancement within the monarchy could sometimes arrive through another person's loss. The decree had changed the institution. It had not healed the family. One private conversation still remained, and it would determine whether anything personal could survive what the crown had just done. With the documents signed and the palace already moving around her, Queen Camilla now faced the person whose future had become inseparable from her removal. The turning point did not come from King Charles. It came from a meeting nobody expected to happen. Queen Camilla asked to see Prince William privately, without secretaries, advisors, or even the king present. For years, history had stood silently between them. Now there was nothing left to negotiate. Her position was gone. His future was secure. Yet when the door closed, she did not accuse him of destroying her. Instead, she asked whether he had ever believed there was room for her at all. Queen Camilla wanted one answer before the palace moved any further. She needed to know whether Prince William had acted out of personal resentment or from a belief that the monarchy could not move forward while her influence remained so closely tied to King Charles. The prince agreed to meet because the institutional dispute had been settled, but the family wound had not. Ignoring that truth would only leave bitterness beneath the surface. Queen Camilla spoke first. She told him that she had spent years believing every successful engagement, every public duty, and every difficult appearance would eventually prove that she belonged. The queen consort had assumed that time could soften history. Prince William listened without interrupting. Then he told her that his concern had never been her place within the family. His concern was that no private relationship, however important, could be allowed to shape the future structure of the crown. Queen Camilla then asked the question she had clearly carried into the room. Did Catherine want me removed? Prince William answered without hesitation. No. The future king made it clear that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had never demanded such an outcome. Her role had expanded because succession required it, not because she had sought Queen Camilla's downfall. Then Prince William revealed something she had not expected. During a private conversation with King Charles, he had argued against humiliating her publicly. The prince had insisted that any decree should remove authority without turning the departure into a public punishment. He wanted clarity, not spectacle. Queen Camilla absorbed the revelation in silence, realizing that the man she had partly blamed had also tried to protect what dignity remained. Finally, she looked at him and said, "Then protect your wife better than this family protected anyone before her." The word stopped Prince William. He did not defend himself. He understood exactly what she meant, and the warning reached far beyond that room. Queen Camilla left saddened, but calmer. Prince William remained behind, staring at the chair she had occupied, carrying her final words with him. Their private conflict had finally been spoken aloud. Outside those walls, however, Britain was about to learn of the decree, and the reaction would be impossible to contain. The family had reached its private understanding just as the public learned that the monarchy had undergone one of the most dramatic internal ruptures of the reign. By morning, the decree was no longer a palace secret. It had become the only royal story anyone wanted to discuss. Television anchors abandoned scheduled segments. Commentators debated whether King Charles had acted too late or gone too far. Supporters of Queen Camilla described the decision as harsh and unforgiving. Others viewed it as a decisive transfer of authority toward the next generation. Yet one moment outside Buckingham Palace captured the national mood better than any televised debate. Hundreds of people stood staring at the palace gates, waiting for another announcement. While working privately, King Charles learned the scale of the reaction and immediately understood what had changed. The palace had issued a brief statement confirming, within this dramatized account, that Queen Camilla's institutional role had ended under the signed decree. An institutional role referred to her official place within the monarchy's working structure, including duties, influence, responsibilities, and access. The king had wanted clarity before the pressures of succession grew stronger. Instead, he had exposed the most painful conflict within his family to the entire nation. Queen Camilla resisted every suggestion that she respond publicly. Friends urged her to defend herself, explain her side of events, or challenge the impression that she had simply been pushed aside. She refused. She understood that one angry statement could transform private pain into open warfare. She would not give the palace another crisis to contain. Shock spread across the country by the hour. One broadcaster placed the words, "The King's Final Decree on Camilla," across its evening coverage, turning a private rupture into one of the defining phrases of the reign. Outside Buckingham Palace, a small gathering quickly grew into a crowd of several hundred people. Some held their phones toward the closed gates. Others stood silently reading breaking news alerts, waiting for movement that never came. Prince William understood that his next public appearance would be judged before he spoke a single word. As he prepared for his first engagement following the announcement, Catherine, Princess of Wales, paused beside him and quietly said, "We cannot look pleased." The prince nodded. Both understood the danger. A smile could appear triumphant. Visible tension could suggest panic. Their responsibility had suddenly become larger than ceremony. They needed to demonstrate that the monarchy could withstand a family rupture without appearing victorious over the woman who had lost everything. Later, King Charles watched the coverage and saw the consequences with complete clarity. Queen Camilla's silence had denied the public a counterattack. Meanwhile, the restraint shown by Prince William and Catherine prevented celebration from becoming the dominant story. Yet even the endless commentary could not answer the most important question. Once the headlines faded and the crowds left the palace gates, only one question remained. Not what had been taken from Queen Camilla, but what King Charles believed he had saved by taking it away. In the end, the decree accomplished exactly what King Charles intended, and exactly what he feared. It ended the uncertainty. It clarified the future. But clarity came at a cost. The monarchy emerged with a defined path forward. Yet the personal wounds left behind could not be erased by official statements, constitutional authority, or royal tradition. The decree settled the institutional question. Whether it settled the human one remained far less certain. It placed the next generation firmly at the center of the monarchy. But it also forced King Charles to accept that protecting the crown could demand a sacrifice that no ceremony could disguise. Queen Camilla lost the institution she had spent years fighting to enter. King Charles preserved the stability of the monarchy, but he could no longer pretend that stability came without personal cost. He watched the new structure settle into place around him. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, assumed greater responsibility, while Queen Camilla withdrew from the official machinery that had once defined so much of her public life. The constitutional identity of the monarch, the duty to act first for the continuity and stability of the crown, had finally outweighed the private instincts of a husband. That mattered because the crisis had never been solely about one woman's duties. It was about whether personal loyalty could shape the monarchy's future indefinitely. Queen Camilla stopped fighting once she understood that no appeal was coming. The queen consort did not find peace through victory because there was no victory left to claim. Instead, she found acceptance in the realization that the position itself was gone. King Charles remained connected to her privately, but both understood that something permanent had changed between them. He had chosen the crown when the choice became unavoidable. Neither of them could pretend otherwise. Prince William carried a different lesson from the crisis. Watching his father make the decision taught him that inheriting authority meant inheriting painful choices. Not simply titles, residences, ceremonies, and privilege. Catherine, Princess of Wales, understood that lesson as well. Her growing role brought no sense of triumph. She knew that advancement within the monarchy often came because someone else had stepped back, fallen away, or been removed. Eventually, King Charles spoke to Queen Camilla alone one final time about everything that had happened. He told her that he had never wanted the crown to become something that stood between them. She answered quietly, "It always has been." The king did not argue. Neither did she. For the first time, there was nothing left to defend because the truth had become simpler than the conflict itself. Queen Camilla left the room, and King Charles watched her go. This silence felt different that no second decree would follow. No hidden restoration waited behind another door. Her royal authority was over. Meanwhile, Prince William and Catherine now stood unmistakably at the center of the monarchy's future. The verdict was final.